This week on TNA Impact, we had two Pick Your Poison matches. We had a face to face confrontation between Jordan Grace and Masha Slamovich. We heard from Steve Macklin, and we had a huge X Division title match between Speedball Mike Bailey and Leon Slater. This is your TNA Impact review. Welcome back to the Wrasslin for Life Network, and welcome back to another episode of the TNA Impact Review. And I am going to jump right in it with Impact Wrestling TNA Impact, kicking off with a Pick Your Poison match between Rhino and PCO. It was a no disqualification match for the TNA Digital Media Championship and the International Heavyweight Championship. And for this entire match, the crowd was not sitting down at all. They were on their feet. PCO delivered, Rhino delivered. I think PCO just gains energy, I guess you could say, in no disqualification matches. Those are his type of matches in this stage of his career. It was a fun match to see. Rhino was cool, PCO was cool. PCO picked up the win, but this was a stellar match. I enjoyed it from start to finish. Like I said, the crowd was on their feet the entire time. They were into it. They were cheering for PCO. They were cheering for Rhino. All of the big spots that were going down with tables and weapons or whatever you want to call it, everyone was into this match. And this, I feel like, is how you kick off an episode of TNA Impact. I think this was phenomenal. Like I said, this match was won by PCO, and he charges with more momentum as we get to Bound for Glory, because he will be in a Monsters Ball match against Matt Cardona for the Digital Media Championship and the International Heavyweight Championship. Stellar way to open up TNA Impact. I thought it was a great match. We also had an NXT TNA crossover, and this wasn't really advertised, but we had Ariana Grace come out and she introduced Brinley Reese, and Reese took on TNA's Ash by Elegance. I think this was a fun match. It wasn't like the best match of the night or anything like that. This was a fun match. I think Ash by Elegance had a lot of fun. Reese had a lot of fun in this match as well. This one was won by Ash by Elegance. No surprise that a TNA superstar is picking up the win on TNA television, but not much to talk about here. But we just got more of that NXT TNA crossover, and I know we're still like, I know we've been saying we're in the beginning stages, but I know it's going to continue to grow and grow soon. But this is just another step forward with the partnership between TNA and WWE. So we have a new match added to Bound for Glory. And at this point, I am super excited for this. So we had a video package of Rosemary and Wendy Chu, and it seems like they were haunting the TNA Knockouts World Tag Team Champions and Spitfire, Danny Luna and Jody Threat. It looks like Wendy Chu and Rosemary want the TNA Knockouts World Tag Team Championships. That is happening at Bound for Glory. It is official. NXT's Wendy Chu and Rosemary team up to take on Spitfire to challenge for the TNA Knockouts World Tag Team Championships at Bound for Glory. I think this is a win-win on both sides. I personally believe that Wendy Chu and Rosemary should win the tag team championships at Bound for Glory, because they can take those titles between NXT and TNA. And I think it would help the NXT women's tag team division a little bit, because they did merge the WWE tag team championships and the NXT women's tag team championships together. And the majority of the time, the women's tag team championships are really just defended on Raw and SmackDown, even though they can go through all three brands. But I think this is a perfect way to kind of boost the TNA Knockouts tag team division and the NXT's women's tag team division. I think this is perfect. I hope they kind of win. I know Spitfire just got the titles just a couple of weeks ago. I think it might have been at Victory Road, but have them lose the titles to Rosemary and Wendy Chu at Bound for Glory and give those titles a good push in TNA and NXT. I think it's a great shot here. But again, at Bound for Glory, Wendy Chu, Rosemary team up to take on Spitfire for the TNA Knockouts World Tag Team Championships. Last week on TNA Impact, Leon Slater won a huge triple threat match to become the number one contender to the X Division Championship. That championship match happened on this week's episode of TNA Impact. Speedball Mike Bailey was defending against Leon Slater in what easily was the best match of the night. Instant classic by Leon Slater and Speedball Mike Bailey. I was so into this match. High spots, high moments, big reversals. Leon Slater, at I believe 19 years old, is probably one of the best wrestlers right now in TNA wrestling. And he took Speedball to his limit, I feel like. And I also feel like Speedball Mike Bailey took Leon Slater to his limit. This is one match I feel like you have to go out of your way to watch. Find it on YouTube. If you have the TNA Plus app, go find it on there. I don't know if Access TV has an app, but if they do and they show episodes of TNA Impact, find it on there. This is a must-watch match. This showcases the X Division and what they can do. Leon Slater, like I said, 19 years old, going toe-to-toe with Speedball Mike Bailey. Leon Slater, I feel like, is the future of the X Division. One other person I feel like is the future of the X Division too, haven't seen in a couple of months, is Kevin Knight as well. But Leon Slater proved that he can hang with the big time with Speedball Mike Bailey. This match was won by Speedball Mike Bailey, but y'all, you got to watch this match. I can't repeat that enough. You got to watch Speedball Mike Bailey versus Leon Slater. They literally tore the house down from bell to bell. They tore the house down from bell to bell. This is a must-watch match. So after that huge X Division title match between Leon Slater and Speedball Mike Bailey, we got a video package, and Vikingo, the high-flying sensation Vikingo, is returning to TNA at Bound for Glory, and he will be facing Speedball Mike Bailey for the X Division title. So another match added to the Bound for Glory card. Speedball Mike Bailey will be defending the X Division Championship against Vikingo. So we heard from Steve Macklin on this week's episode of TNA Impact. Basically, last week, he was attacked by Josh Alexander's new group, the Northern Armory. That includes Josh Alexander and Saint and Center. He was talking about that. Then he got interrupted by Josh Alexander. And at this point, these two men were jockeying for position. You got Josh Alexander, who is the blueprint of TNA wrestling, the standard. And you got Steve Macklin, who basically is a homegrown talent in TNA wrestling. They want that top spot, right? And Steve Macklin, is a former Impact World Champion, TNA World Champion, and Josh Alexander is the longest reigning TNA World Champion in history. So yeah, these two men really want that top spot. They have history together. They wrestled once last year. I don't remember what pay-per-view it is. It was, I think it might have been Victory Road last year. I feel like this match should have happened at Bound for Glory for the world title, but they had other plans, and Alex Shelley was the world champion at that time. But yeah, they had some heated words to the point where it was an attack. It was a 3-on-1 attack on Steve Macklin. Steve Macklin was tied up and then hit with the C4 spike by Josh Alexander. This has led to their big Bound for Glory match. So at Bound for Glory, Josh Alexander will be taking on Steve Macklin. One of my favorite rivalries heading into Bound for Glory is Moose and Mike Santana. These guys have the intensity on both ends, and this match is going to explode at Bound for Glory. But this week on TNA Impact, Mike Santana was supposed to face Brian Myers. That match did not happen. Mike Santana charged the ring and took out Brian Myers, took out Eddie Edwards, took out JDC, and called out Moose. Moose didn't come out, so he went to find Moose. And then when he found Moose, he was attacked and taken out by Moose. This rivalry is heating up, and I'm looking forward to this match at Bound for Glory. Moose is a top tier talent in TNA wrestling, and Mike Santana returned around Rebellion this year and has been on a roll ever since. I have become a huge fan of Mike Santana over the past couple of months. I'm glad he is back with TNA wrestling, and Moose is just a beast. Whatever he does in the wrestling ring, on the mic, Moose is a beast. This match is going down at Bound for Glory again. Mike Santana takes on Moose at Bound for Glory. Masha Slamovich is determined to beat Jordan Grace at Bound for Glory. We had a sit down face to face between Masha Slamovich and Jordan Grace, and heated was it. It was very intense between Jordan Grace and Masha Slamovich. You can tell both of these folks are really good friends, and that was brought up multiple times in this sit down interview. WWE and Jordan Grace was brought up by Masha Slamovich, and it seemed like it was a little bit of jealousy on Masha Slamovich's side from her bringing up, WWE, the Royal Rumble, her appearances on NXT, and Jordan Grace really was trying to remind Masha Slamovich that she's one of the best women's wrestlers in the world, one of the best wrestlers, period, in the world. And Jordan Grace felt like she needed to apologize to Masha for her time in WWE. She even asked, "Did you want me to apologize for WWE calling me? Did you want me to say, no, I can't do WWE because my friend Masha Slamovich would be a little bit jealous?" She brought all of that to the table. Masha Slamovich even said she stepped away for a little bit and joined the tag team division to help put the spotlight on other women in TNA, but she also feels like the spotlight should be on her as well. Jordan Grace talked about how that every time she had held an open challenge, she was glad Masha never showed up, because she said, even it was a little bit hard to admit, but she said every time she beat Masha, it was a little bit harder to beat Masha each and every time. And she reminded Masha that she beat her at Bound for Glory 2022, and she said, this is going to be a repeat. I'm going to walk into Bound for Glory this year and beat you and walk out still TNA Knockouts World Champion. Masha Slamovich also reminded her that at Bound for Glory, I'm going to take that title and the spotlight away from you. This is going to be a phenomenal match. If you haven't seen their Bound for Glory 2022 match, I believe it is on YouTube. Go check it out. It's one of the best knockouts matches I have ever seen in TNA wrestling. These two will deliver at this year's Bound for Glory as well. This sit down interview was very, very intense between these two, and you can check that out also on YouTube, I'm sure. But it's going down at Bound for Glory. Masha Slamovich will be challenging Jordan Grace to the TNA Knockouts World Championship. We head to the main event of TNA Impact. It was a pick your poison match chosen by PCO Nick Nemeth versus Matt Cardona, with Frankie Kazarian surprisingly at commentary, and we will get to that. But there was security around the ring because Matt Cardona was fearful that PCO would show up. But all in all, for this match, I found it very boring. I think the most entertaining part of this match, and it's kind of crazy to say, it was Frankie Kazarian on commentary. He was actually kind of funny and made this match watchable. It wasn't a bad match. It was just very slow, and I really didn't care to see Nick Nemeth and Matt Cardona share the same ring. But to speed to the end of this match, PCO did come out, attack the security guards at ringside, and then Nick Nemeth basically picked up the victory from the distraction of PCO. He defeated Matt Cardona. So after this match ends, Matt Cardona is carried out by PCO, and then Frankie Kazarian charges the ring and attacks Nick Nemeth until Joe Hendry comes in for the save. Now, I do understand they're both faces, but they're having a match at Bound for Glory for the TNA World Championship, Nick Nemeth and Joe Hendry. In my opinion, I wouldn't run into that ring if I was a face or a heel to save Nick Nemeth. I want that world title, take the beat down of a lifetime, and then I'm gonna take that title at Bound for Glory. But I'm not the booker here. Anyway, So Frankie Kazarian attacks Nick Nemeth. Joe Hendry comes in for the save, and then it's revealed that Frankie Kazarian is the special guest referee in this title match at Bound for Glory. Why are we doing this? Why are we having a special guest referee in this match? I don't know. I'm kind of excited that Frankie Kazarian is the special guest referee. I'm also confused as well, but I can't wait to see how this all plays out in just a week's time at Bound for Glory. Joe Hendry could walk out as world champion. Nick Nemeth could retain the world championship. Frankie Kazarian could cost Nick Nemeth the title, or he could cost Joe Hendry the title as well. There's a lot that could play out here at Bound for Glory, and we just have to be seated and ready to see what happens next Saturday at Bound for Glory. So that was TNA Impact this week as we charge full steam into Bound for Glory. I'm going to quickly go over the matches added to Bound for Glory and the matches that had already been previously announced for Bound for Glory as we conclude this episode of the TNA Impact review. So here we go with the matches. We got the Call Your Shot Gauntlet match returning on the countdown to Bound for Glory. The TNA Knockouts World Tag Team Championships will be on the line. Spitfire will be defending against Rosemary and Wendy Chu. The TNA Digital Media Championship and International Wrestling Championship will be on the line in a Monsters Ball match between PCO and Matt Cardona. The X Division Championship will be on the line. Speedball Mike Bailey will be defending against Vikingo. Josh Alexander will be going one-on-one with Steve Macklin at Bound for Glory. Also at Bound for Glory, Moose will be going one-on-one with Mike Santana. We have a full metal mayhem match between ABC, The System, and the Hardys for the TNA World Tag Team Championships. Masha Slamovich will be challenging Jordan Grace to the TNA Knockouts World Championship at Bound for Glory. And lastly, in the main event, with a special guest referee of Frankie Kazarian, Nick Nemeth will be defending the TNA World Championship against Joe Hendry. So that is all the matches going down at Bound for Glory. I'm excited. It is all going down next Saturday. The channel will be live reacting to Bound for Glory next week. It's going to be a phenomenal show. I'm looking forward to it. This is the end of this week's episode of the TNA Impact Review. We covered all of the new Bound for Glory matches added from this week's episode of TNA Impact. We covered Jordan Grace and Masha Slamovich, the X Division title match that was an instant classic. This was a great episode of TNA Impact, and if I had to give it a rating, I would give it an 8 out of 10. It was just a phenomenal episode from start to finish. We will be back next week for the Bound for Glory show. We will be live on this channel giving our live opinions and thoughts as the show is happening live, and we will have hopefully another episode of the TNA Impact Review. If you are watching on YouTube, I thank you. If you are listening to the channel on any of the podcasting platforms, thank you as well. Again, this has been another episode of the TNA Impact Review. I am your host, Ringsider Anthony, and I will see you in the next one.